Good evening. I hope the webcam will behave tonight. If not, maybe you'll just have to be stuck with me. All right. This journal is from March 20th, and it was the first one of that day. It was a one day, one seed, the Mayan day. So, I know nothing, but the knowing is in me, or it is me. Does that make sense? Listen from heart, because you are no different than I am. Mine cannot take this trip, so leave it aside for a while. It will be there for your return. Enter heart. Let mine go. No thought, just hearing and pondering from heart. I know nothing, but the knowing is in me, and it can speak. Now, the exact same is true for you, but you won't know it until you validate it for yourself. So, listen closely. You are that. You are divine. Listen from heart, where you simply know this to be the case. Heart is much wiser than you. Surrender to it and learn. Heart is very wise, but how many who listen can really hear it? Forget your ears. Listen within. Papaji was never one to make distinctions between devotees, whether it was their spiritual maturity or whether they were more qualified for enlightenment than others. He would reject such assertions or arguments every time. I found toward the end of his biography some direct words on this subject. So here they are. It's a short little quote. Papaji says, I don't accept that some are mature seekers and some are not. There are those who can listen attentively to the Guru's words, and there are those who can't pay full attention to what he is saying. This is the only difference I accept. When the teacher speaks, your whole attention should be on his words. If you don't listen to the words of the teacher, his words will not benefit you. And finally, as you listen to my words, you have to keep your heart open, not your ears. When the word is uttered, it must enter your heart, not your mind. Close quote. And don't you know, I love that last line when I found it. So it's too linear to say that some are more advanced than others, some more qualified for awakening in some sort of hierarchy. That's part of duality and believing in separateness, which is only a lie if you trace it down. All are one, and you are that. Can you take that in? I think you can. I also think that you have much within you there in your garden of belief that would try to crowd out this new understanding. Those old beliefs in your guilt or sinfulness, worthlessness, incompetence, all of that will have to be pulled out and discarded for the new belief flower to take hold and flourish. All is only one. We've spent a whole lifetime, many lifetimes, believing in lies. Well, it's time to let go of them. And since they comprise over 90% of what we believe, what we think is true, Our work is surely cut out for us. Only it's a much different kind of work than any we've taken on before. This is not a doing, but a being. Not a getting, but rather a letting go. Surrender is required. Surrender to the flow and to just watching. The Native American Hopi are a wise and generous people. They tell us it is a time now to push off and away from the bank, to get into the flow of the river and to let it carry us. Heart is ever and always bringing before us just what is right and perfect in the ever-flowing now. As we are attentive to heart and listening there, we will tune in. We will know when to let go. Anyway, much of our letting go is already done for us. Have you noticed a greater degree of detachment in yourself, in your life, than ever before? Where did that come from? Can you say? I don't know anyone who can, but guess what? It doesn't matter at all. It's mostly mind who will ask questions like that. Where did it come from? Learn to leave mind aside. Learn to identify it in action. Mind doesn't flow. What is this heart flow? From whence does it arise? Where is it going? These are all questions to set to the side. Here's the problem, the issue with questions like that. They take you out of heart. Tens of thousands of people or more have had a very special spiritual experience of one kind or another. One where they were taken up into higher, more rarefied spaces to taste the divine. Perhaps it was an encounter with bliss or knowledge delivered full-blown straight into heart. Later, this experience leaves them, perhaps after an hour, a month, several years even. When that happens, the unwise who are still within time will try to go back and recreate what they feel they have lost. They want that experience back. It was mighty fine. Well, this is actually sad, and it's a mistake to go chasing after anything in the past, trying to bring it into the now. The now is already divine and perfect, just like it is. If we would just remain both quiet and in heart, all would be well. No need to pursue any experience, nor to recreate one from the past. Rather, just be. That is enough. Now, don't enter mind with this. Just sit quietly in lotus posture, so to speak, in your heart. Be still. To activate mind is to leave heart behind. That's just how it works, in my experience. The same thing can happen when we have a special experience and then try to analyze or understand it with mind. That's no good. Who out there can set mind aside sufficiently to stop going to it like that? Those are the ones who can win their way home into peace. Peace is an already established fact, but it is found only within. All roads to peace are closed to the mind. Now, who can accept that and be free? It's funny. I thought I left off dealing with mind directly in these journals a while ago. I thought that their flow had just taken for granted that listeners would use the earlier journals to find their way into the inner kingdom, and that only heart speak would be spoken here now. Just goes to show you that it's dangerous to think we know anything at all. Clearly, mind or some aspect of that is back on the table in some way. Only it is different this time. Have you sensed that? Instead of being in mind and viewing or experiencing, talking from there, we are now in heart and viewing mind from that perspective. That's a big shift. Stay within, or you'll miss what's being said. Nothing is really linear, and that's a big part of it. Mind can't help but to think and process in linear terms. That's its function, and there's nothing wrong with that either. It's just that mind is not the tool or the route into awakening. For that, heart is required. I'm more and more delighted to find myself speaking the same words as many others who teach or through whom teaching flows. We don't get together, we don't know one another, and yet the message remains the same across the board about heart. I love hearing my message from someone else's lips, or their message from mine, just the same. Where you are in consciousness right now is far more dependent on you than maybe you know. Do you want heaven? Then be heaven where you are. Heart vision has eyes that can see the divine in simply everything and everyone, in every situation. Well, what else is heaven than that? Take your power back everywhere. Distinctions must be made between you and the body mind, the avatar you're working with, for it has drives and desires, even a personality of its own. I don't understand those who say that these bodies are far older than we are. Oh, what's her name? A couple of people I've heard say this, and I really don't get that. But what I do get is that there are two of us here, and it pays to be aware of that, which we won't be if we're too identified with our part in the play. Just like you can set mind aside for a time and enter heart, you can also separate out in awareness from the body and its drives and desires. There is no need to think that every desire or tendency you experience is from the soul or the being. Time to recognize and allow that it could come from the body itself. Bodies are separate entities that can possibly live without souls or beings driving them. I mean, that's what Nancy Dennison says, and I'm sure she's not the only one. Me, I've just dropped it in heart. I don't know. Now, no, this isn't science fiction. This is part of a lesson on backing away from being so very identified with 3D, with the dream. It's just a reminder of what we already know. Just as a night dream seems so very real at the time, until we awaken or maybe become lucid in it, well, so it is with our waking life. One day we will be able to see with such beautiful clarity how the daytime is also a sort of dream, albeit a dream of a different sort. It's different because it's on 3D, and our night dreams partake of 4D generally. And so the difference is in the underlying natural laws of the two realms, but they're both dreaming. It's time to be recognizing that we've been brought up on and programmed with lies and deceit. Whether intentional or not doesn't really matter at this point, though I'd say for the most part that it was unintentional on the part of humanity. As with everything, only those at the very top, most of them, are running things strictly for their advantage. And it advantages them greatly to have us all believing in lies. Nice little cattle, good little herd, yes, yes, do as you're told. Well, to hell with that, right? The time for it is long past, and so many of us are waking up now that they can't put things back into the box anymore. They won't fit. Too many secrets have been let out, with more escaping pretty much each day. There's really no driving need to focus on that anymore. It's on autopilot now, and will continue taking all darkness, all lies and deceit out of power day by day, even hour by hour, as this acceleration of time continues. Respect the self. More and more, let's have a care about how both you and your body are handling things. Be sensitive to you. Don't overwhelm the self with too much negative news or information. Don't forget the value, the virtue of balance. So, I try to immerse the self at least equally in things that raise my spirits, that uplift. Let's seek them out and identify them so that when that overwhelmed feeling arises, you'll have material right at hand with which to love you. And that means that if you must delve into a load of this or that darkness, there's plenty around, whether for work or curiosity or whatever reason, just be sure to balance that out with things that uplift and support your sensitive soul. Pay more attention to you. Turn that focus inward. Notice when you're not feeling quite right. Notice. You are worthy. Yes, you. You are worthy. You want the divine love affair? Start by loving the self divinely. Turn and ever keep your attention within. Pay attention to you. Listen to the self. Most of us are not at all good at that. If you're in mind, then your focus will be on others and on the outside. You'll be shoving the self aside in favor of what you find there, instead of the reverse, which is far more healthy. Time to give more respect to you. Now, there's no need for our bodies to be sick at all. We mostly wind up doing that to ourselves by the way that we go on, never paying sufficient attention to the inner voice, the inner tutor, the higher self, the soul, whatever we call it. We even need to listen to the body when it speaks and know how to distinguish its very real requirements from those of the being, the soul. Now, how can we do this if we don't watch and observe the self continuously? Do you really know you? I don't. You are worth it. You are, and you hold the key to it all. Are you in a prison? Is that how it seems? Then know, really know, that you hold the key to the prison door. You have always. You may have hidden it from yourself, but you've always been free. But without knowing it, you didn't take advantage. You didn't know you could just turn around and walk away. The whole trick that's been played on us is really just a trick, a sleight of hand. We've been convinced that certain things are true that are not, and that certain things that are not true are the case. In other words, we've been lied to thoroughly. Yeah, I know, well, duh. But no, not like that. That's only mind's response, not that of heart. Heart never says, well, duh. Heart is ever respectful and loving. Let's look again. It's a time of truth, real truth arising. Now, truth isn't something that can be held or experienced directly in 3D. But that's okay. We're multidimensional. And so we can have a taste of it while still in 3D. Truth is coming at us direct from the sun. Did you know that? Did you know that light is also information? Think fiber optic. The sun is very much in charge of the whole solar system and what's going on here. So look to the sun. We live in its heliosphere. Truth is also arising directly from within each of us. Rather than stay hidden in heart, it seems that truth is bubbling up from within. Just like the detachment that has come upon us unaware, so it is with truth. This detachment has the flavor of truth. Now, this can be a heaven, my friends. It's all in our angle of vision. For those whose perspective is flexible, this comes to them that much easier. You are the all, but until you know this and take advantage of it, what good does it do you? Like having a prison key that you've hidden from yourself. It's like being lied to and calmly, endlessly believing the lies. Until you put a stop to it, you're going nowhere. Now, nowhere is a very good destination if we just put the least little break in the middle there. It turns into now here. Do you see that? Write it down, then you'll see. So many delightful insights are hidden in language. Language structures consciousness. Get a load of that. Have you thought about it? Language structures consciousness. It may be a very good time to begin to pay attention to our use of language as well. Take control. Take your power back. Take responsibility. Oh, and don't forget to take plenty of enjoyment all along the way as you go with the flow of the tide of rising frequency, rising consciousness. Who knows what's up ahead? And who cares? Come on, let's be wise for a change and just stick with now and with heart. Now, the thing about that rising frequency, of course, is that it can be very uncomfortable. And I think that's why we don't need to look to something that's a drastic shift. It would be painful. And so things are happening incrementally. And they're there if you look for them. So much has to do with what our beliefs are. Our beliefs will prevent us from seeing things that go against them. So I think maybe the easiest way to have a rise in consciousness is to start paying attention to your beliefs. And the easiest way, perhaps, to do that is to take on a new belief, one that you choose for yourself, where you're going to go against what you formerly believed. And so you'll be getting rid of the programming and inserting something of your own choice. You're taking your power back. And as you do that, we have to do something like that in order to get those subconscious beliefs to come out of hiding, to rise to the surface. So when we put a new belief within ourselves, everything that we have in us that goes counter to it will rise up, will make itself seen and heard. And so I find it's a pretty successful way to deal with it. At least it makes you feel like you're doing something. And, that can be a good feeling, even if it is mind driven. Good day to you then.